Hey, what's good, y'all? It's Desmond with Rhyme Masters. And what you're about to watch is a writing workshop that I did with Under the Influence, working on the 4 bars a day structure and really kind of going deep into the way I think about rap writing and really growth rap writing. And so I take you through a process and not just showing you the steps, but also just talking about the principles underneath it so that you're able to make it your own. Because oftentimes you get tactics online about certain strategies to do, but sometimes those strategies don't work for you for whatever reason. But the principles for writing, creativity, and personal growth hold up over time. Everything we do at Rhyme Masters is based on really diving deep and finding those core principles and core values that allow you to understand the strategies that we talk about, but then make it your own. It's the first of an experiment of supporting folks in growth rap writing, and we actually had a goal of making it the worst one. So maybe in the comments you can let us know if we succeeded in our goal, or maybe we didn't succeed in our goal. Maybe you find some value in it or not. So thank you for checking this out, and let me know what you think, and let us know how we can better serve you in supporting your growth rap journey. All right, catch you at the end. Genius over doubt.
Well, like I said, we have the goal of making this the absolute worst one yet. The absolute. It can only get better from here, folks. So before we had a budget, we had to do mouth air horns like this. And to kick off this growth rap writing session, or let me correct that, really this 4 bars a day growth rap writing session. Just realized I want to support folks in growth rap writing. What is growth rap writing? Well, it is rap writing, but with the focus on, I'll just say, your personal growth, your personal experience in it. Uh, if you end up with a dope set of 4 bars, awesome. But more importantly, are you enjoying the experience? Are you being creative? It's not always just about writing something that can end up on a verse. And the more you write for yourself, your own exploration, your own fun, your own development of your skill set, uh, the byproduct is you actually have a whole lot of material that you can then potentially put into a verse and share with people if you want. But the writing, uh, especially if you do it daily, is enough. And the sharing it with other growth rap practitioners, I guess that's a fancy word, is also enough. Just really giving this art form of rap writing, of rap in general, a space to live that's not dependent on career aspirations. Now, the cool byproduct of at least the way that we do things here is that you will develop a skill set, and with that skill set and some marketing and sales and business acumen, you can turn that into a career. But the cool thing is, you won't be dependent on career success to feel fulfillment from the practice of growth rap. All right, so here's how we're gonna kind of kick this off. Is the whole point is to basically write 4 bars today, but myself, blank Mr. Under the Influence, I'm gonna put your government back out there. Um, we've been writing and freestyling for a long time. So yes, we could write these 4 bars really quick, but I really want to slow down the process. I also really would just want to combine like the exploration of, I would say, personal growth topics that at least that are on my mind, but I think would be on your mind as well, as we strive to reach our potential and contribute to ourselves and those that we care about, and then bring that into our rap writing practice in this case. And that's what makes this growth rap session. So the topic is something that's been on my mind for a lot, especially the last month. And it's really just this idea of manifesting abundance. And I guess what I'm curious to kind of kick this off is just even thinking of that phrase, manifesting abundance, or just abundance in general. What comes to mind for you, Mister Under the Influence? You got a lot of AKAs too. We're gonna leave that part out.
So when I hear abundance, when I think about it, I think about it from like a scientific kind of standpoint, and I'm left with the question of, can a renewable resource be considered abundance, or does it have to be something that is scarce and limited? Because if somebody has an abundance of something that's unlimited, is it truly abundance? Does it feel like abundance? Or does it just, feel like we're supposed to have that, you know? It's almost like living by a stream of water, right? Like the stream is there, it's always going to be there. You use it for irrigation, you use it to wash your clothes, you use it to cook your food, to drink, to bathe, all of those things. You don't think about it. But somebody somewhere else, like in a country in Africa, they might have to walk 5 miles to find a well to get clean water, and then carry that back 5 miles to their family. So for the person that's living by that river, by that stream, and that's their normal everyday life, do they consider that abundance? Or would that African person in the other person's shoes be like, wow, this is amazing. We have an abundance of water because they've come from scarcity. So I don't know. I feel like there's an element of comparison that must take place when we are calculating abundance, simply because abundance in itself can only be identified through some type of comparison. We don't know that something is abundant. We don't know that air is abundant we don't know that oxygen is abundant here until we go in outer space and we can't breathe, or until we go in the water and we can't breathe, you know. So that's kind of where things take me initially when I think about abundance. Like, how do we look at it from an objective standpoint before we start getting into the subjective categories? Because you can look at it from the, like, you can have an abundance of the things that you need, but will that make you happy? You know, is it a thing where you want an abundance of the things that you want, and you'll do without some of the things that you need? Like, and then you have the internal aspect of abundance versus the external versus the internal aspect, the valuable versus the cheap. So there's so many different comparisons that can be made that really kind of create that kind of add a shape shifting element to the term or the idea of abundance. So that's kind of like where my initial thoughts take me. So as far as a topic to write about, I can really go in a lot of different directions and connect this to, I feel like, almost any topic, like any topic at all. But yeah, that's what my thoughts are when it comes to the topic of abundance.
So just kind of hearing what you're saying, it makes me, the question comes to mind. Like when you say like, will it make you happy? The question that comes to my mind is, what is enough? And I think a definition of abundance is having more than enough, right? Uh, and the interesting thing about saying that phrase, having more than enough, is within me, that feels like if I stop there, that feels like greed. Like to pursue more than enough kind of resonates like greed. If I stop the definition at that point, and I, because I mean, if we break it down from this concept of abundance, and we break it down into like the more concrete, what we're talking about are symbols of wealth, money, um, symbols, uh, opportunity, right? So with, because money itself, I say this to um, students I taught 10 years, people, I mean, I'll say it to anybody, like money is a tool, it's not a value, because like I'm trying not to like pull in the political metaphors and tariffs. I'm trying not to do that. I'm gonna stay out. I'm gonna do my best to stay off of it, um, just because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But it's a tool to get our needs met. So, and when I ask people, it's like, okay, what do you mean money's not a value? Well, like, let's say I just gave you, $1 billion, but you can spend it, can give it away, can do anything with it. What value is it then? Right. So it's when we, the stuff that we buy with it to take care of our needs, the contributions we make with it to maybe take care of other people's needs. Um, it's what we do with the money that represents what we actually value, right? And the abstract of what's truly important to us. Um, so having more than enough, like when I think about having more than enough, the first thing I want to do is share. And like that's why I want to manifest abundance in my life. It's so that I can give more, right? Create more opportunities, um, for myself and for others to really do the work of helping folks heal, grow, towards joy and fulfillment, right? And that's the purpose. That's the vision that I've orchestrated my life around. And Rhyme Masters and Growth Rap is completely aligned with that. And then what I do in my day uh, job is completely aligned with that work. So in some ways, I feel abundant in the present moment of like there's not a lot that I'm doing that is out of alignment with that purpose. So I get to feel an abundance of purpose and gratitude and connection and contribution. Um, so that's kind of like, that's where I'm at with it as far as like, okay, why I pursue it and want to manifest it in my life. But I still also have some like uh, challenges and kind of staying in that mindset. But I'm just curious to what else comes up for you based on what I just, what's resonating.
So when you were describing what you said, it reminded me of charity. And when you were talking about greed and the charity aspect of abundance, it kind of reminded me of the notion of power. So when I hear you describe wanting abundance, you want that abundance in order to have a social impact on other people. And more than likely, people who are disenfranchised and actually need that help, right? Versus personal gain, um, which I think is commendable, and we need that, especially in our leaders. But it does speak to an element of abundance that kind of goes unseen a lot of the times, because an abundance of resources means that I ultimately have more of the things that other people need, which, when we look at a community, a hierarchy, it gives that person leverage, it gives that person power. And with that power, it can be utilized to further help others, or it could be misused, right? So that abundance can be used to barter with other people in a fair trade kind of a market, or it can be big business merchant. I have an abundance of things that you need desperately, and so I'm trying to be a profiteer, and then that's when the greed kicks in. you know um so i kind of I kind of also think about the responsibility of abundance, right? Because it's a source of power, and it can be represented as greed or charity, that comes with a certain level of responsibility. And so, what does that entail? What does that feel like, right? And those are things that I feel like I definitely want to explore in the writing. But I think the biggest epiphany that I had when I was kind of listening to you and your thoughts and your process was like, how does one gain abundance? And you initially described greed, but I think there's, like, charity in a sense can create abundance, right? Like when we get an inheritance, or somebody, or somebody provides charity to us, right? Like a game show winner. Oh my God, I won $100,000 on this game show, right? And then, so in those instances, I don't look at it as greed or malicious. You know what I'm saying? That maybe the game show, you can look at it as greed to an extent, right? But they could be playing for charity, right? Which we see with a lot of the celebrity shows. But at the end of the day, abundance is not something that we always seek out and have control over. Sometimes it just falls in our lap, and now we just have this responsibility of what are we going to do with this abundance and with this leverage. When my mom, she gets a lot of extra food all the time, and my mom is not even 100 pounds soaking wet. she's always has an abundance of food. And how does she treat that responsibility? She always gives that food out to friends and family who struggle, with groceries, who struggle, what I'm saying, to earn enough to have these type of meals. So my mother is happy to give these things away because she's not eating a lot of it and she's diabetic. So, in a lot of ways she can't eat some of this stuff. But just being an immigrant, um, when she came into the country, she's a citizen now, but she she's always had that mindset, of giving back, helping others, because when she first came to the country, she needed other people's help, especially when she had me to survive and to thrive. So I feel like responsibility is something that's echoing, as I think about abundance, and then also the creation of it. Right? We can create abundance through greed. We can gain abundance through charity from others, but then also we can create it ourselves through a minimalist kind of, or a limited kind of a situation. So think about savings, right? Initially, I make my check, I spend my money, I don't have an abundance. But now, if I turn around and say, I'm going to actually put $500 away on every check and not just spend that on entertainment or just spend that, on food and drink, now I've created an abundance that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with greed, because I didn't take from somebody else in order to create that, nor did somebody give me something extra to create that. So sometimes when we find a way to optimize what we have, we can also create abundance in that way. And I feel like that's honestly the best way to do it, because it makes you efficient, which means you are ready for the responsibility of such abundance because you know how to efficiently use those resources. Whereas, if you do it out of greed or somebody gives it to you, you don't necessarily have the tools to deal with that abundance. So, those are kind of my other thoughts on the subject.
So now what I would like to do is, I don't know, I'm feeling like 10 minutes might be good. Let me get some music going and let's just see what we got. All right. How's that sound?
It's coming in good. It's a good level.
Cool. And Under the Influence, he's also going to be doing some writing as well. So you'll get to hear his 4 bars as well. And maybe perhaps we'll explain just our process. Like, I'm showing my process, but you can explain like how you approached it and how you got to what you got. And so I think people can learn from that. So, all right, so let me put 10 minutes on this clock. And if we need to add time, we can, but I think we're good. All right. Let's do it. All right. Timer starting. All right. All right, so this is what I got. And I'm gonna say it without just without the beat for a second. I'll say it. I'll talk about how I got to some of these ideas. And I might talk. There's another part of my 4 bars a day process that I do that I might talk about. So we'll see. So from the urban side to the countryside, and I put side in parentheses because I was playing with the idea of saying from the urban side, from the urban side of the countryside. Excuse me. I was playing with the idea of saying from the urban side of the country. So from the urban side to the countryside, I'm gonna go with that though. From the Teslas to the horsepower ride, we all trying to get it that high and mighty. My chicken scratch is amazing. The high and mighty dollars, so we holler from the squalor, wishing for taller. And then stacks would be the next word I would say going into the next bar. So let me talk a little bit about it. So I started with a word web with accumulation, and it went from stagnation to stag nation, stag horse power ride, and then from nation US, and then side, and then urban. So I got to side from country, just association from countryside, and then opposite of country being urban. And then I noticed that, oh, urban U, side S, US. And so that caught my attention. So anytime I do a word web and something catches my attention, I just circle it and then I start playing with those ideas. What I did, I don't think I got anything. Maybe the dollar part got in here, but I did a little bit of free writing on the question of what is enough. How we found that number, that dollar figure to make us happy as a newborn. We were born in joy. How dare we don't enjoy, and that felt like something that I might play with. That might be a bar for another 4 bars for another time. So when I started to craft these 4 bars, urban side as the U.S. opposite of countryside, that's how I got to this first line. There's sometimes I do this where it's like I know that I'm saying urban side as it represents the US, but I don't bring in the context of the US to make that connection, right? It's just there on its own. So like without you knowing the background, right? You won't know why I'm saying urban side. Which sometimes I leave it out on purpose. Other times, again, if I was really like trying to focus on a verse, I would be like, "Ooh, there's probably. Let me see if I can maybe do another 4 bars, thinking about how I can bring the context of the U.S. in it, and then maybe connect it, or at least just have it there for the rap breakdown folks that really want to notice, like, oh snap, U.S. urban side, like it's like, oh, I even see that connection. Did he mean to do that? And then let's see. I use some internal rhyming just to end the 4 bars. Dollar, holla, squalla, wishing for taller stacks. And to be honest, that was me like, all right, time is up. I want to finish it instead of just, rhyming with mighty. So it's like I said, I was going to give you 4 bars at the end of the time. And so I did. And that's what I got. Okay. That's me. That's my 4 bars. And then Jermaine, I want to hear what you got.
I think it was interesting hearing yours because we both, while we did a good job dissecting abundance in many other aspects, I felt like we both kind of went in the direction of, I guess, what was obvious, which is just greed. Uh, because I also referenced the dollar in my 4 as well. Um, but I do like your visual of the Tesla, because that is a, or at least at one point was a high value item, high status item. So the visual of that, speaks a lot. And then I know towards the end you were just trying to finish things up, but I did like the phrasing wish for something taller. I think you said something dollar, and then wish for something taller. Like, and I and then I think the next word after that was supposed to be stacks, but without you even saying stacks, like I just like the metaphor of like you having the dollar and now you wishing for something taller, or like the dollar is a toddler, but I wish for something taller. Like, I want the money to grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of, it just brought that to my mind. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But as far as mine is concerned, um, I too again leaned into greed, but I more so kind of started it off with a question similar to the whole house shoes or the slippers. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and actually recite it now, just so it kind of gives everything else I'm about to say context. Charity, I can't write today. All right, here we go. Charity a check, diamonds round my neck, choking me to debt, abundance, let's connect. Dollars to commas like I placed another bet, hit the jackpot, a feeling I can't forget. So that's my four. So yeah, I started off with the whole, the question thing, the choice, right? And then went with the analogy of the diamonds around the neck because I feel like in the game of rap and entertainment, that's a huge statement, right? And that's something we see all the time. But a lot of the times, you go around with that diamond tester and it's fake, right? And a lot of rappers, they get their chain snatched, they sell their chain. Is it real? Is it fake? So there's a lot of controversy and speculation over that chain. But despite all of that, the idea of that chain is I'm rich, right? I got money, I got 100,000, however much around my neck. And so in a practical sense, or more so in an efficient sense, right? Because we talked about efficiency before and optimizing your resources. It's like a waste, right? It's a terrible waste to put a house on your neck, right? Or a car on your wrist, right? It's just why would you do that? You could do so much more with that. So in a lot of ways, it's like we put ourselves into debt doing this type of shit because when the money is gone, we wasted it. You know what I'm saying? Versus buying assets, you invested in the liability. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I kind of meant by the whole choking me to debt in relation to the chain. And then and then I follow that up with abundance, let's connect because now I need this money. Right now it's on. I done spent my advance money from my label, and I bought me a chain, and I bought me a house, and I got my mama a crib. But now I ain't got nothing to make the project happen, and the label want their money somehow, some way, right? So it's like abundance. Let's connect dollars to commas, like I placed another bet, right? Because it's the same thing with the whole dollar getting taller. You add commas to dollars, you're doing the right thing, right? So, and then like I placed another bet because we're taking the chance, we're running the risk, especially if you're coming from that street life, and ultimately, you want to hit that jackpot, and you hope to hit it, and I hope everyone hits the jackpot, and when you do, it's a feeling that you don't forget, it stays with you. You chase that feeling, you chase that high, and in a sense, it kind of creates this vicious cycle, which ultimately turns into greed, where you have to feed that monster and that validation by getting more money and having more things and having more abundance just to feel whole when you shouldn't need abundance to feel whole at all, right? But that's another door, another tangent, to the topic of abundance.
Well, before you do that, because I don't want to lose. There's a point that you said, like, um, that really connected to something that I wrote here in the free write. I'm moving it like folks can see it. Hold on, there it is. and I don't even know if that pops up as well as I wanted to, but let's see if I can do that. So what made me excited about this when this came, as happy as a newborn, like the idea that we're chasing this dollar amount to make us happy as a newborn. Because I basically had this idea of like, when yes, babies when they're born they cry, but they're born in joy, and then save the trauma stories, but like at the core, you got life in your body, you got joy in your body. And I say that joy is given to you at birth, right? So like in my view, it's like we come from this abundance of joy. So like, how dare we don't enjoy? And I've done this play a lot, enjoy, and enjoy. And so that makes me think of, like, if I go back to here, and you gave me a really, this is a cool thing about having feedback that's like not your own head, because so when I had the phrase wishing for taller, the first thing that was in my head was the skilo joint. But then I said dollar, so taller stacks. It was like, okay, stacks of money. But then when you connect it to like your money growing, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now, if I were to keep going with it, I now have a way to get this newborn idea in there, right?
Yeah.
And then be able to like work that to really get to what I want to say about abundance. Like, this is not, this is like the start, right? Urban side to countryside. So really I'm doing the polarity of like city and country, right? And then make it more concrete with Tesla, and then horsepower, right? So, Tesla via, cars, and then, a truck or whatever. And then basically saying that we're all trying to go after, the money, right? And then holla from the squala, like it fits. It's definitely not a filler phrase in the sense of like, oh, I just got to finish this real quick. Cause like what's behind it for me is like, when I think of squalor, I think of scarcity. So we holla from the squalor, from the scarcity of our mind, wishing for taller, right? Taller stacks in that case, right? Mm-hmm. But I could say wishing for taller, for our money to grow, our money to grow infant, our money to grow infant, but infinite. Ooh.
Yeah, there's a play there. Infinite, infinite,
yes.
infinity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You can go in some directions. Even when you mentioned the born in joy, and then the word enjoy, I thought of end joy, like END joy. Like, don't let them end the joy. So there's a lot of things in that you wrote, for real.
Yeah. So that's yeah. See, that's what this is fun, because again, the cool thing now about like, doing it like this is now it's like your perspective is like enough of a pivot to like, oh, I can bring in these other things that were just like there to be used, but I didn't necessarily know how to connect them, right? And so I don't know. There's I just want to put that out there. Jermaine, I'm curious if I don't know. Let me hopefully I see it breaking down, but I want to try to fit everything on the screen.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm doing like the wide view of kind of essentially it's my writing process displayed for people. So again, when I'm writing 4 bars a day, I do not do all this stuff all the time, but this is the stuff that's happening in my mind. So I'm curious for you, Jermaine, like if you, like, one, is your paper where you wrote this down as messy as this? uh, or
yeah, I've got a couple pages of notes that are just like all over the place. So it's actually more dysfunctional than yours.
okay.
Because you mentioned your chicken scratch earlier and having trouble reading it. If I were to show you my stuff, it'd be far worse if that's even showing. You know, it's just a mess on the paper. So I think we go through a similar process of just kind of getting ideas down on the page in a free write kind of a way.
Yeah. And I mean, there's other versions of writing techniques that I use. So, for tonight, it was like, all right, let's start with the conversation and then take the word web, the free writing, and then the 4 bars. But there's also times when it's like I'll start with a verse idea. Like I might start with that, we were born in joy, so how dare we don't enjoy. That might be like my first bar. And then I go to write the second, but I might not know where I want to go. And then I start breaking off into pre-writing until I get, okay, here's where I'm going next. And then I'll write that bar. And then eventually clean it up and then write it all together. So the point being, not keeping it all in my head, because that's what causes the blocks. It's like, if I keep my pen moving, my thoughts keep flowing, and as long as that's happening, I will get to something to complete the 4 bars or however many bars I'm trying to write. And then what I would do, so with this 4 bars that I just wrote here, let's say this was in my journal, I mark it complete just to have that sense of like, yes, I stayed on my habit. And then there's another box I have that's like for favorite. And I don't judge my favorites after I write them. I get through a whole week and then I come back to it and read it again. And if I feel something that I like, I'll check the favorite box. And if I'm liking anything of it, whether it's a single bar or single idea, phrase, I'll mark it as a fave and then mark what I like about it. So after, I get to the end of like a good sized pocket journal like this, that's like full of 4 bars with favorites. It's like, now, if I so choose, all right, maybe I want to put a verse together. I go through here, find my favorites, find those ideas, and then also find beats or make beats that I like. And so I'm never starting from blank, unless I choose to start from blank, because I also enjoy that process as well. But I'm never at a loss of inspiration to create a verse if I so choose. But I'm doing this without a project in mind. Like, I don't know what's the next song I'm gonna make. I am getting the bug, so something might be coming. But the bug has nothing to do with me keeping up with the practice. And then, truth be told, I don't have a lot of the bug right now because I'm developing all this, right? Like, I really want to be, I want to be, the best growth rap coach. I'm not trying to be the best rap artist. Like that's I think I can't speak on other people in the space, rap coaches in the space, but I know for me, I like my artistry is for the love of the art and putting stuff out there. It's not because I'm trying to build a career around it, and not because I couldn't, but because I'm finding this is more in line with my calling than just being another rap artist in the world. So yeah. That's the explosion sound effect that I would use right now if I had it. All right, let's wrap this up. Highlights and insights. For the absolute worst version of this session, if that there will ever be.
So for the absolute worst version, it wasn't so bad, right? We got some good bars out of it. We had a lot of fun conversation that I will definitely be circling back to as I further explore the topic of abundance and maybe turn this into a 16 and throw it on a song or something. Because I am constructing a bunch of freestyles for an EP that I'm dropping. So why not put this to use? Um, but yeah, I feel like this was good, and I like the fact that people are getting to see the process live, and so they can replicate it and know that it's not this foreign thing, it's not this impossible thing. These great rappers don't just come out the womb, just being so skilled and immaculate at rap. Like, no, it's a craft that can be honed, can be utilized, and over time you can achieve mastery and a high level of it. So, this is just the beginning, the building blocks of that. But I guarantee that if, anyone listening to this who joins the community, or picks up a journal, as long as you stick to the process, you will experience growth. You will get better. You will have that self discovery, and you will be better off for it. So as a product of you know growth rap myself, for the past 5 years with Desmond, I'm a testimony of that. I would not be where I am and as efficient. I'm not going to say it's good because good is subjective, but I wouldn't be as efficient as I am at writing music at the quality and the rate that I do it if it wasn't for these habits, these practices, and ultimately these skill sets. So please take it seriously. It can be incredibly valuable. And if I could add, please, I know you all at home are not with us live doing this, at least not this time. But please feel free to share your 4 bars in the comment section because we love to read and hear and critique and get some feedback and things give feedback and things like that as well, because that's ultimately what we're here for, what we're trying to do, what we want to help others do. So I'm not a YouTuber, so I'm not going to say like and subscribe, but I will say comment because it's relevant to the content. Okay, and that'll account for your 4 bars a day at that. So I'm gonna give you credit for the 4 bars if you write it in the comments. Okay, get your ass a journal so you can put it in that.
Nice. Smash that subscribe button, click the bell, smash the like button.